This is a Sandy Boy Productions podcast.
Welcome to Finish Lines and Milestones, a podcast that celebrates the everyday runner. I'm your host, Allie Bretnacher. If you run, you are a runner, and every runner has a story. Join me each week as I share these stories, and we cross finish lines and celebrate milestones together. This episode is brought to you by Organic Pure Fuel. Organic Pure Fuel is made by Anderson's maple syrup, and it is just that, pure, organic maple syrup. And I know it seems maybe a little strange, but it is my most favorite running fuel. I just got back from Vegas and I used it during my half. I had 3 packets. I do it about every 4 miles. And you know what? I wish I would have brought in 4 packets so that I could have also used it on my waffles the morning of the race, because I had these incredible waffles, and their tagline is from waffles to workouts, because it's the same exact maple syrup that you can use on your waffles, oatmeal, coffee, whatever. And I also love the fact that it has everything that you want in a fuel, the carbs, etc. But it also has antioxidants and electrolytes, which is an added bonus. It goes down really easy because it's pretty liquidy, and it's also easy on my stomach. And if you want to try it, which you 100% should, they sell 10 packs and 24 packs on their website. If you go to andersonsmaplesyrup.com and then click shop at the top and pure fuel, you can use code FUEL20 at checkout to save 20% off your order. And they also have the 24 packs available on Amazon. Anderson's maple syrup is also available in stores nationwide. So if you look in the syrup aisle, you're likely to find some Andersons there as well. When you support this company, you also are supporting the preservation of acres of hardwood forests across the Midwest. Thank you so much to Andersons for supporting this podcast. Hello and welcome to episode 100. This is Allie. And I decided it would be brilliant to learn a new podcast editing tool for my 100th episode so that I could have video. So for the 10 of you who might see this video somewhere, here it is. I really want to take this podcast to the next level, but it is really hard work. And so bear with me as I do that. But welcome to the 100th episode. I cannot believe that it's been 100 episodes. It has flown by, because I'm having so much fun. So thank you to everybody who has listened, whether this is your first time, your 100th time. Thank you, Mother. I just can't do it without you. So thank you so much for listening. And I'm so excited because this week I have Lindsey Hein as my guest, and I've been listening to Lindsey's podcast. I'll have another with Lindsey Hein forever. She has almost been doing it for 9 years now. And we were planning a big event the evening before the Indianapolis Indy Mini, which is a half marathon and 5K. Part of the half marathon runs around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And the night before, we're hosting a live podcast at the Bottleworks Hotel in downtown Indianapolis. And we've sold over half of the tickets at the time of this recording, which is Thursday, March 20th. And on the 21st, Thursday, March 20th, and there's only 100 tickets. So if you're listening to this close to when it comes out, just know that you better go get a ticket, because we're going to sell this event out. So if you're thinking about it, go do it. We have a big giveaway that we're going to announce on Monday, March 24th. So go make sure that you're a part of that as well. And I wanted to give a special thank you to my best friend, Alyssa, who I don't know if she still listens. She was never a podcast person and definitely listened to early episodes. But if you're listening to this, Alyssa, I love you so much. She sent me my favorite flowers, tulips, these gorgeous tulips, to celebrate my 100th episode. So thank you so much, friend, for supporting me and cheering me on. And thanks to my mom and dad, who always listen, even my mom, who's not a runner anymore, but used to be, and my husband, who doesn't listen, but makes this possible, and my kids, it makes this possible. So it's been so fun. All right. Now for this week, I had Lindsey Hein. And again, she is to me like a And to me, she's like a celebrity. I can't believe I have the opportunity to be working with Lindsey with Sandy Boy Productions, her podcast network. It's brought a lot of opportunities for me to have sponsors for this podcast. And again, for us to do this really awesome event coming up on May 2nd. And hopefully other events throughout the year and in years to come. Who knows? But I'm really energized and excited by it. And Lindsey has been running since she was 15. So we really go through her whole journey, have a lot of content. She's run 17 marathons. She's a mom of 4 boys. She is from Indiana, but now lives in Raleigh, North Carolina. And at the end of this episode, we play a fun game, the Never Have I Ever runners version. So stick around for that. We also talk about Lindsey's health. So stick around for that, and stick around for the future of Finish Lines and Milestones. Again, so glad you're here. And if you do enjoy this podcast, please rate, review, share. That's how more people find this show, and apparently through video too. So here you go. I hope you enjoy this episode with the one and only Lindsey Hein. Oh my gosh. Lindsey Hein is on my podcast.
Hi.
Is this a dream? Am I dreaming? I knew you were going to laugh at that. Yeah, I can't believe that this is episode 100. I never imagined making it this far. And then I was telling you this, but I can't believe that you spoke for Linking Indy Women, this women's organization that I used to run in Indy, on March 21st, 7 years exactly before this episode is coming out on March 21st this year. It's just so weird. And I believe in weird stuff like that. I just feel like that's a little God wink.
Yes. And I was like pregnant at that event, and just seems like a totally different phase of life, honestly.
Yeah. Which kid were you pregnant with then?
My 4th. Yep. It was because he's 6, so he'll be 7 this summer. And it was the first time I wrote a speech and learned how to really put together a talk public speaking wise. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that was a really cool experience for me.
Yeah. Which is so wild to think about.
I was only 2.5 years into my podcast. It was really, truly pretty early days.
Yeah, it was. And I feel like for me though, I had been listening to your podcast from the very beginning. I felt like I can remember the first time. I thought this was the first time that I met you anyway in my head at Indy Women's Expo. You had a booth there, or a little tent, and I remember being so nervous and going up to you and introducing myself. Yes. So I don't think we knew each other before that, because in my mind, and still in my mind, you're like this local running celebrity to me. And now you're just this national running celebrity. I know you don't feel that way, but it's literally, it's like, who haven't you interviewed?
I knew who you were before then because you fundraised for Back on My Feet.
Did I?
You did something.
Yeah, I did something
I don't know what
in the early days of Back on My Feet.
And you did something with Back on My Feet, and so I knew who you were. Because I was very much in Back on My Feet stuff. I was anybody who donated or volunteered or fundraised. I knew your name for sure.
And that's how I feel right now about everybody who's registered for our event for the Indy Mini.
Yes.
I'm sending texts to people who have registered that I know, or messages to be thank you so much. So just know, everybody, if you haven't registered yet, we know that you haven't registered.
Yeah.
So get it together before there's no tickets.
So I'm pretty excited. We've sold 38 tickets in less than 24 hours. And
I'm actually worried because I'm we have 100 for people to get, but then we also have our sponsors to fit in the room. And I'm just okay, it's going to be the best.
Yeah. I am definitely not a rule follower. So I am the person that will be we can fit 5 more.
Come on and register at the door. Yeah.
I think that I might be a frustrating person to work with in that regard because I do not follow the rules.
I'm the exact opposite, which is why I think in some ways we work together well, because I am
That's perfect.
Rule follower, firstborn, through and through. I am always following the rules.
Allie, you beg for forgiveness. You do the thing and then you beg for forgiveness. Gives me anxiety. Because you can at least get away with it once.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
And runners are usually Look, if there's no seats left, sit on the floor.
Right.
You'll be
Yes.
fine.
That is really true. Yeah. So it's going to be a blast for anybody who doesn't know. It's the night before the Indy Mini on May 2nd. And if you don't know what the Indy Mini is, if you're not local, you got to come in town for it sometime. It runs around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is where the Indy 500 is. And it's just iconic, as I think we've mentioned before.
Yeah, it's a rite of passage. If you live in Indy or think you have any kind of association with Indy, you have to have done this race. I got really excited because one of the people who have bought tickets, because we, again, are stalking the list, Diane from New York, she said, oh, I'm coming in from New York. I've never done this race. And I started telling her about how cool the entertainment is on course, and then just how cool it is to run on the iconic Indy 500 track. And I'm like, oh, I'm really proud of this race. I'm really proud to be from Indianapolis, and like the on-course entertainment, I will say, is very Indiana. And I think there's something really special about it. Like, you have old ladies clogging.
Oh yeah, they are the best.
At one point, the best. You have 12-year-old kids in like punk rock bands on the course. Like, it is just, and then of course there's like lots of church bands along the course as well. I just feel like it's really cool, and I don't know that you could sell me on a better half.
It's the perfect half. I've done it. This will be my 17th time, which is wild to me.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It's if you're a runner in Indy, and I feel like back in the day, people would be like, if they got into running, they'd be like, oh, I don't do the Mini, it's too crowded.
Oh, right.
And I'm like, don't be elitist. Don't be too cool.
I don't really try to go fast at the Mini because there are a lot of people, and we have so many great races in the Indy area that it's just such a fun vibe and experience to be a part of.
Yeah, I'd go for the party for sure, over the time. But if you do want to run a fast time, just try to get
get in the fast corral and you can fly. Good luck.
That's right.
So I'm sad that you're not going to actually run the Mini, but you will be announcing at the 5K.
I might.
You still might. Don't get my hopes up.
I don't know which one it is yet. I'm either going to run the race and document kissing the bricks and all that, the track, or they said that they might need me to do 5K announcing. And I said, I will do whatever you need me to do. So
I want you to run with Ainsley's Angels with our group.
So listen, if you're listening, guys, come to our event. That's what we're saying. It's going to be special and fun. We have amazing goodie bags, and I just think it's going to be a really cool, like, tight-knit, intimate group.
I agree. And I really want this to be something we can do as a tradition year over year, and perhaps before the Monumental Marathon in November. So
totally. It's
just really, I'm so energized by it. I know you are too. And I just love texting back and forth and being like, oh my gosh, we're up to this many tickets already. And it's really encouraging, and it's going to be so much fun, and the perfect way to kick off that weekend too, I feel like. Yeah.
And shout out to Bottleworks, because that is where the event is. And Allie and I will be staying there that weekend. It's just like such a cool spot.
Yeah.
On Mass Ave right there. And like, just so many cool things in the area. So we're super excited.
Yeah, they are now a Michelin Key. So Michelin Key is to a hotel what a Michelin star is to a restaurant. So they are a Michelin Key hotel. I think that was last year that they got that award, which is so cool. So that just goes to tell you how, like, we're talking top tier here. If you're coming in town, that's where you need to be. So for people who may be like, oh, who is Lindsey Hein? And why is she coming to the Mini? And what's going on? Could you just give people a quick rundown of who you are?
Yeah. I'm coming to the Mini because I love Indy, and I'm from Bloomington, Indiana. And then I went to IU and moved up to Indianapolis, like first job out of college. So I lived in Indy for a very long time, moved to Raleigh, North Carolina in 2021. So I still very much say I'm from Indianapolis. Am I from Indianapolis or Bloomington, though? Because you grew up in Indy and you still live in Indy.
Well, I grew up in Westfield. I grew up in the suburbs of Indy. And for anybody outside of Indiana, I just say Indianapolis because nobody knows the difference. For sure. Almost same with Bloomington. Bloomington people will know because of Indiana University, IU.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters. Indiana.
Do people know? I wonder, though. Whenever I say that, I'm like, I always just say I'm from Indianapolis. But if I say I'm from Bloomington, Indiana, do people
probably
know
not
what that is? I usually say where IU is. But yeah, I am a runner. I've been a runner since I was like 15, and I've run 17 marathons. and I have 4 boys. I launched my running podcast, I'll Have Another, with Lindsey, Hein in 2016, and have just been immersed in like the running industry and culture ever since.
And what is it? You're getting close to 600 episodes of I'll Have Another.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's 580 or 590. I'm not even sure actually, but yeah, I've been putting an episode out every week since 2016, and then I've been doing like series as well. 597. Okay.
Whoa. I was 97.
I just 597.
Oh my gosh, you're really close. You should.
Wait, what are you
gonna do?
Do I do something?
God. You got to celebrate it. I ended up on your podcast at 500 by accident. Although now it's.
Oh, you were my 500th episode. See?
Yeah. I was like, ooh, for the Indy
That's
500 in Indianapolis.
There we go.
But yeah.
I remember when I hit 25, 50, and 100, I made a big deal about it. And then I just would never think about it in time.
Right.
I've noticed the past few years, like, never done anything for like my anniversary of starting the podcast, which is coming up in 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
It'll be 9 years.
Wow. Yeah. Mine is in April at some point.
I do remember when I had my 100th episode. So I had Meggie Dials interview me, and my husband did write me a card, and the kids got me cupcakes that said like 100 episodes.
The internet says that only like less than 5% of podcasts make it to 100 episodes. So I can only imagine how many make it to 600.
Yeah. That's why I always like when people are like, I want to start a podcast or like talk about joining the network and stuff. I'm like, so many people start podcasts and quit. So yeah it's because it's a grind if you're not doing it for like your full-time job or whatever.
Right. And I think people, myself included, like I get discouraged by numbers, right? And it just doesn't come
totally.
Like you can't just put your podcast out there and expect to have like thousands of people listen to it, which makes sense. But I think people just assume it's not that hard. I just get a microphone and start interviewing people. And it takes a lot more than that to get it going.
It's super hard to grow a podcast unless you're like already a famous or well-known name. So yeah, props to anybody who's out there
doing it. Props to us.
Doing it. Yep. We're doing it.
And how old are your boys right now?
They're 6, 8, 10, and 12. So they're in that place where they're all a nice, even 2 years apart.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. We're not always that. So we're kinder, 2nd, 4th, and 6th grade. It's really good right now. They fight a lot, but like in general, I'm like, this is good.
Yeah.
Like, they're all at school all day, and yeah, it's a cool season.
I look forward to some of that when they're just a little bit more self-sufficient. Like we're getting close.
And I am like super free rangey. So I feel like my kids became self-sufficient maybe earlier than they needed to be.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It is.
So yeah, like we live a half a mile from the school, and like my 2nd grader just leaves in the morning. He's bye and just walks out the door. Doesn't walk with anybody. Doesn't want me to walk with him. Just wants to be alone and walk to school. And yeah, I've got some independent kids. And maybe that's one parenting thing
you should be. Sometimes the things my kids feel like they need me to help with, I'm like, where did I go wrong? Like, how can you not do this yourself?
I mean, that too.
Yeah.
That too. I'm like, you do not need to ask me for water. You can get your own water.
Yeah, no, that's a good example. And you and Glenn have been married for how long?
16 years.
16.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? I feel like when you get to 20, you're like, wow. I'm like, there's no other way to say it, but I'm old.
Yeah, we're getting there. But I love the story. So I was just listening in preparation for this to an episode of Allie on the Run that you were on.
Oh,
dude,
oh my
it
gosh,
was so long ago, and it was so fun to listen to. So I encourage anybody to go listen to it. It's so good. Episode 37. And now she's on like almost 800. So
I think I was on her show twice. It must have been the first time.
It was the first time. I started listening to the most recent time you were on. And then she was on before. I'm like, I'm going to go listen to the really old one because that's going to be fun.
I actually remember recording that sitting on the floor in my bedroom in my house in Indianapolis. So hiding from my kids.
Yeah. And then hearing you talk about, and we might have another kid because you only had 3 boys at the time.
my gosh, that's so funny. I actually just interviewed her for my podcast because I'm doing a series on running podcasters.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's recorded, but it's not out yet.
Okay, cool. We'll all be interested to hear that episode. It's so crazy talking about now that she's been through her cancer diagnosis. Like all that stuff is really interesting to talk about, which you and I will talk about today at some point too. But yeah, it's just wild to go back in time knowing what you know now.
I remember in that conversation, because she was asking me about the BRCA gene that I have, and she was like, yeah, I don't have any breast cancer in my family. And so this is super
wild.
crazy.
So we'll talk about that. But all that's to say that I just love the story of how you and Glenn met. And so I just want people to hear that because I think it's the best. Sure. Please share. So, and people who went to IU will love it even more.
I know. I'm like, how should I tell the story? We worked at the Village Deli in Bloomington, and I was a server and he was a kitchen guy. I remember the first time I knew who he was, his parents came and they were eating at the Village Deli. I came back to the kitchen and I was like, who's Glenn? And my best friend Emily, who I worked with, was like, he's the guy on the toast. And I was like, hey, Glenn, your parents are out here eating breakfast. And then I remember thinking like, oh, he must be normal. His parents seem really normal. Because like a lot of kitchen guys at the Village Deli, I feel like they were like a lot of stoners and
townies, like people who like
were in school.
Yeah. Although I guess you're a townies.
Yeah. I think I maybe questioned their ambition a little bit.
Right.
That was so judgy of me. From the girl whose dad helped her get the job at the Village Deli.
That's funny.
Like he knew someone who knew the owner and I just like really needed a job. And so yeah, maybe I should check my ambition there. But anyway, yeah. So, but he always tells me there was like a couple months later, there was like a party or something that someone maybe we were having people over to our house. I was like 20. Mm-hmm. And he said he was washing dishes and he didn't get invited and he was like offended by it. He was like,
probably so sad.
Why didn't I get the invite?
Yeah.
And I tried to break up with him, I don't know, a month into dating or hanging out or whatever. And he was like, no. He was like, why? And I was like, I don't know. I just thought this was going to be like a summer thing. I didn't think we were going to be serious here. And he basically was like, you don't have a good reason.
Yeah. Sorry, I veto your breakup.
I veto your breakup. I just brag on him a little bit here, though, because I don't know if I told this story on her show or where I've told this story, but he was just always so super like confident in himself. And I remember I had an ex-boyfriend that was like wanting to get back together. Mm. And so I told him about it. And I had been single for like a year. But this ex-boyfriend had came back around and he was trying to get back together. And I told Glenn about it. And I said, he really wants to go to dinner and talk about things. And this was like, we had probably been dating for, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks or something. And he was like, you should go. He was like, you should go talk to him. And I was like, oh, you won't be mad if I like go to dinner with my ex-boyfriend? And he's like, no, I think you should go talk to him. And so I did. And we had dinner and it was fine. And he's a nice guy and he's married with a few kids now and that's all fine. But I think I came home from that. Oh my gosh. How nice is it to be dating someone who has no jealousy issues?
Gosh.
And is just like totally fine and like confident. Hey, if it's meant to work out, it'll work out and you should go entertain that conversation. Yeah. And so I think that's what sold me on him.
And being like, no, you're not breaking up with me. You're mine. Sorry. I think that's so great.
He was like, I think I need some better reasons.
That's really funny. And you're like, huh, I guess I don't have any. You're right. I guess we're still together. Yeah. I think that's just so cute. Yeah. And why did you end up going to college where you're from? Why'd you pick IU?
Oh, I just didn't have good grades and I didn't have a lot of choices.
There you go.
And it was just like, I think if I could have got in or went to a school, I'm sure IU is like so much harder to get into now. I've never got good grades ever. And I don't know that I would have done very well far away from home, honestly. I was still needy with my parents.
And you didn't run collegiately. Did you run in you run in high school? Like where did your running
I ran for Bloomington North.
Okay.
Yeah. My best friend Sarah invited me to join the cross country team my sophomore year of high school. I had done track very casually my freshman year. In middle school, I did every sport. I did diving and gymnastics and track and cheerleading, like anything that was available. I was like, sign me up.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend Sarah invited me to join the cross country team, and I did. And I cried the night before our first meet. I was so scared. It was an intramural meet too. It was just like our team, and I cried.
Oh boy. Yeah. Oh.
Because I wanted to be on varsity, but I didn't know if I had it in me, and I was just like not in a good headspace. But yeah, so I ran cross country, and then I just ran in college to stay in shape, and then Glenn and I ran our first marathon in 2008, 2 months before we got married.
And what year did you graduate from IU?
2006.
Okay. Sorry, I cut you off.
So fresh out 2 years. No, 2 years out of college. Okay. So that's where I guess it all began.
Before we go down that rabbit hole of your running journey to 17 marathons, which is nuts, where do you fall within your sisters? Remind me.
I'm in the
You're
middle.
the middle. And Erica is the oldest?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my older sister's 2 years older, and my younger sister is 3 years younger.
Okay, and what's your youngest sister's name? Shelby. Okay, I don't think I've ever met Shelby, but I've met Erica.
Shelby Lynn? Yeah. Shelby Lynn. She lives in Bloomington.
Okay.
Still.
Okay, I feel like middle child, that helps. No wonder you're not a rule follower. Second born, oh, my gosh. God. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no rule following here.
So first marathon in 2008, and it was San Diego, rock and roll. How the heck did you choose San Diego for your first marathon?
I think we were just like, oh, if we're going to do one, let's go somewhere cool.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We didn't have any money. We were so young, and my husband's parents came with us, and we shared a hotel room with them because they were paying for the hotel room.
Oh, man.
I remember being like, I don't think we could have done this if you didn't come. And his parents wore shirts that had the date of our wedding on it. And
shut up. That's so adorable.
See, yeah. I think his parents are a little more like your parents.
Oh, yeah. That's really sweet. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think we'll just do this one and done. I wanted to have a big goal before our wedding. And then I also was like, oh, this will keep me in shape. And then I can be the size I want to be. That's what my mindset was at 25.
Dude, I PR'd my marathon at the time. I ran a sub-4 for the very first time the year of our wedding. So if that tells you anything. Yeah. Women, I don't know why we feel like we have to do that to ourselves for our wedding, but it was like, no, I'm going to be in the best shape possible. It's so silly.
It's so funny because I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, you were so young and pre-kids.
Okay, so San Diego. And did you travel or not travel together? Did you train together for the marathon?
Yeah, we pretty much did all of our long runs together. This was before GPS watches were a thing, but we didn't have them. So we just had Timex watch crazy. And we would just run based on time usually. And then sometimes we would get home and map my run it and see how far we ran. I remember we'd be like, okay, 20 miles, we'll go run for 3 hours. And so that's what we would do. And looking back, I'm like, oh, we were probably running a lot more than we realized we were running.
Probably.
A Wednesday, I'd be like, okay, we're supposed to run 10 miles today. We'll run for an hour and 40 minutes in case we're running 10-minute miles. And I'm like, ain't no way we were running 10-minute miles in flat Indianapolis. We were running 8-minute miles. So yeah, I think that in that sense, we were probably very prepared for our first marathon.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember which year Zach and I ran Chicago together, but we trained for Chicago together one summer. It was while we were dating. It was before we got married. And I just remember that solidifying in my mind that he was the one for me because he had never run more than 3 miles and then agreed to train. And I think there's really, it's great. I miss it now because we don't run together at all. He doesn't really run.
Yeah.
But I loved that season where we're doing all our long runs together.
Yeah. No, we've run so many miles together. We don't really run together much anymore, but And then once you had kids, it was like taking
Yes.
turns or we'd go on runs with a stroller together. But yeah, lots of miles. If you can survive like running a marathon with your spouse.
It's a great metaphor
because you can get
for marriage.
There's some
it's hard.
irritability that, it's hard.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's really hard. Just when you think it might not get hard, then it gets hard. So what do you remember about that first marathon besides what you've already shared?
It was hard. No, I think that we went into that marathon being like, let's try to break 4 hours. I think that's doable. And then I was like at the expo the night before and I was like nerding, being a total runner dork, talking to the pacing people. And I was like, oh, maybe I can qualify for Boston. Mm-hmm. So then I got one of those bands that gives you like,
I've worn one of those.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to try to do this. And that at that time it was 3:40. So it was a lot slower than it is now. The women's BQ for 18 to 35 is 3:25, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think it's 3:25.
I feel like that's
so much older than that now.
No, I think it's 3:25 for my group. I can't remember actually, because then I always take off time mentally for the buffer in my head.
Right. Yeah. How old are you?
I will be 39 this year.
So then you're probably 3:30.
Okay.
And I'm probably 3:35. Or maybe I'm 3:40. I don't know.
It's hard. It's really hard.
It's hard. So we got to like miles. We ran 17 miles together and he was like not doing well. And I was pretty fine. And I was like, I'm just going to go because I want to try to qualify for Boston. And so I left him and I was running with some other guy.
Maybe this isn't a good analogy for marriage. I take it back. Bye.
So bye. When it gets hard, I'm going to leave. No. I left him and I was running with some other guy, like some younger guy, but we were like pulling each other along.
That's
and so
funny.
I left, me and this other guy left. He knew though that I was trying to qualify for Boston. So he was like really starting to like, it's interesting. If I would have stayed with him, what would the trajectory of our marathoning have ended up being? Because the trajectory was I did qualify and then I ran Boston and I had a bad race there. And I was like, maybe I just won't do marathon anymore. But then he was like, if you're going to run a marathon, I'm going to run another marathon. And so then he had another bad race and he realized he had really low iron. So that was really the problem.
Yeah.
It was like really a problem. It was very low. And so then we signed up for a couple more and once he got his iron back, he was like, oh.
Now I can kick your ass, Lindsey. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And I'm willing to work harder than you. So yeah, I'm like, I guess if I would have stayed with him though in that first marathon, if I would have been able to finish feeling like I had so much left in the tank because I stayed back with him, I probably would have been like, I want to try this again and like,
try to qualify. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I do remember crossing the finish line, and crossing the finish line for your first marathon is like very emotional.
Yeah.
It's so emotional. Because I remember in that race, I was like, there were like fighter jets overhead, and I was like, drop a bomb on me. My body is shutting down. Like I really felt like that. I was like, I just don't care if it's all over.
Yeah.
At this point, I just feel so bad. And I really was like, are my kidneys shutting down? I felt so awful. But I remember standing there forever being like, where is he? Is he okay? And then he came like, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes later and he was fine, but he was not feeling good.
Did you have a plan of where to meet after? Because I feel like back then, you'd have a cell phone maybe, but I don't know if you'd run with it because they were not as small.
No, I did not have a smartphone. I had like a Razr flip phone.
Yeah, I can picture that. Yeah.
No, we didn't run with our phones. No. And we didn't run with music or anything like that. Just so basic.
So free. That's crazy to think about that now. Maybe it wasn't.
I don't know if I went and found his parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was San Diego. It wasn't like running New York or Boston or anything like that. Yeah. That's where it all started.
And does Rock and Roll San Diego Marathon, does that still exist today?
I don't don't know. Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
Yeah, I just can't keep up with all the rock and roll series that there are.
I think that's the only rock and roll I
Did.
ever.
Okay. Yeah. So San Diego, 2008. Yeah, that's wild.
And then I ran Boston April
The next
2009.
year. Okay. And you said you had a rough race. I guess talk about like how you even thought about training at the time, because obviously later you're now a coach, but like how did you train for your first marathons?
The first marathon, I think I used like a Runner's World plan or something. Runner's World, I don't know if they still have it, but they would you would be able to just plug in your goal time and they would like spit out plans for you.
That's cool.
And we were running like, I think for like our first marathon, like we ran pretty decent high mileage for that. Not super high, but we were doing 10-mile runs midweek. And we probably did at least 3 20-milers.
Oh, wow.
And then, I was like super burnout though, even though I signed up for Boston. And so I did the run less, run faster plan for Boston, which was only running 3 days a week. But I very much did not do the cross training.
Yeah.
So if you do run less, run faster, you do need to get your butt on a bike or an elliptical or get in the pool.
Yeah.
So I just think I wasn't in great shape for it. And then the hills just totally destroyed me. Like I remember my quads hurt so bad at the end of Boston. I was like, and it was very strange experience because this was like before social media times, right? Like I didn't get Instagram till 2012. I didn't know anybody there. I didn't know the scene. It was more like old school runners at that point. But Boston was like, you could sign up, like you qualify. And then when it opens, you just sign up. Like it wasn't like, I got to wait and see if I get in kind of thing. I ran 3:39:52. And I actually think back then you could have run 3:40:59. Like you even had that extra 59 seconds after the cutoff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a very strange experience. I felt like out of place. Like all these people are super experienced runners and I don't know what I'm doing here. But my parents actually came.
I was going to ask if did Glenn come too?
Glenn came and my parents came and my friend Brooke came. And so it was not a good experience. And so then I thought I would be done. And then we just kept, I think after that, what we did was
What?
We then ran Monumental that fall.
Okay.
And we were going to do the half. And the night, like at the expo, we were like signing up that day because that's how I operate. And I was like, let's just do the full.
Get out of town.
Let's just do the full. So we did the full. But we weren't like, we didn't train for it. We were just like, let's just do it. It'll be fun.
Oh my God. And
so we ran the full together.
Wow.
I forgot about that. That must have been.
Oh, nine. Yeah. After.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It must have been that. I think it was probably that same year.
They're just like, okay.
I think we ran like 3:58 or something. We just squeaked under 4
that's
hours.
amazing. Amazing. Can you imagine trying to do that now without training? Because I cannot.
I think I've run for long enough that like I could. It would just not be fun.
Yeah.
It would be like really miserable.
Yeah. That's where my husband, Zach, is getting with the Indy Mini is every year he does it. But I feel like he's training less and less, just thinking, oh, I've done it so many times. Yeah. And then last year he had a horrible race. And at the end, he was just like, I don't think I'm ever going to do this again. I was like, you're going to do it again. You just need to train like a normal person.
Get like a couple of 8
just
to 10
anything,
mile runs.
like anything besides just like running 6 miles one time would be great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like as we get older, it's harder.
The first year I ran the mini, I ran 6 miles was my longest long run before my first mini. And that was in 2005, I think.
Okay.
I was in college.
Okay. Yeah. My first half was the Indy Mini and it was in 2007. And I was in college.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know how my memory is really horrible. I don't remember why I chose that to be my first year because my parents did it for quite a while and my dad was trying to get me to do it. And I kept being like, no, I'm good. And then finally, I guess I was like, okay. And then I did. Yeah. Yeah. And I've pretty much done it like every year except for one for who knows why. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe babies.
No, because I did it pregnant with my first.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
My whole family has done that race.
Your whole family.
My mom, my dad, and my sisters, we've all done it at least once.
Yeah. It is one of those things though. If you're in this area, even in the state, I feel like it's just something you got to do.
You got to do it.
And so then when did you start having babies? 2012. Okay. And then now you have 4 boys, which is crazy to think about. Can you talk a little bit about your journey to becoming a mom?
Yeah. So I just thought it would be a little bit easier than it was at the beginning. And I did get pregnant, and then I had 2 miscarriages early on. And then I think it's so weird. When I got off birth control, I wasn't getting my period. And the doctor I went to was like, oh, yeah, you have PCOS. You have polycystic ovarian syndrome. And I was like, I do? And she was like, yep. She diagnosed me with that based on blood work. No ultrasound, no nothing. She prescribed me 2 medications with no further investigation. I'm 26 years old. I have no of the outward symptoms of PCOS, which is like weight gain and hair growth on your face and just different things like that were not adding up. Like I had no of these other symptoms. And she didn't even order a freaking ultrasound to see if I had cysts on my ovaries. She solely diagnosed me with it based on blood work.
And as a 20-something, you're just fully trusting of a medical professional.
26 years old. Yeah. And I was in tears. I was so upset. And then I was like, well, if that's the worst thing, like it's not a life-threatening disease. But my mom's a nurse, and she was like, no. She was like, I would not take that medicine, first of all. The medicine is like heart medicine and like diabetes medicine. So I went and got a second opinion with my mom and like with her OBGYN. And they did do the ultrasound, and they were like, yeah, you do have a lot of cysts on your ovaries. But it's probably just your body like getting back into figuring itself out from being on birth control I was only on birth control for 1 year.
Interesting.
And so he gave me a medicine that induced a period, and then my body just figured it out. And I started getting my period regularly, and I never had to take that medicine.
That's wild.
It's wild that what if I hadn't had my mom consult with, because then who would I have talked to and asked about? Then would I have just continued taking that medicine for years and walked around accepting that I had this PCOS? I guess in the moment I did have polycystic ovary, but it was more like a short-term thing.
Yeah. So wild.
So anyway, I won't be referring anybody to that doctor anytime soon. And so then I did end up getting pregnant a couple years later and had my first miscarriage. And I remember I didn't have like a real OBGYN at that point, because I had not really transitioned from that one lady that prescribed the medicine. And so I was like, I got to get into someone. And this ended up being my OBGYN that I saw for the next decade. She just happened to be the doctor that had an opening that day. Like, because sometimes it's hard to get into people, and she probably had a cancellation. And I just remember like she squatted down next to me and looked me in the eye and was like, just handled my like sorrow really well. And I was like, that's it. That's my doctor.
Yeah.
And so we walked through it again a second time, and she had prescribed me, I think, progesterone to help protect the lining of my uterus. And the next time I got pregnant, I took that immediately, and it stayed. The baby stayed around. So that was my first Marshall in 2012.
And then every 2 years.
Kept on going. So the first 2 are 2.5 years apart, and it took a little longer than I thought it would to get pregnant with my second. And then the other 2 were not even planned. We wanted to have more kids, but it was like, it was easier to get pregnant.
4 boys, my Lord.
So yeah. I know. I always feel like the fertility discussion is tough, and especially with someone with an obnoxious amount of kids. But I will say, like, it's not that I'm grateful that I had miscarriages, but I'm like grateful that I had a little bit of hardship. I can't understand someone's life who's like truly going through fertility stuff. I can't understand that. But I got a little bit of a glimpse of what if this can't happen for me? And just like the gratefulness of what it means to actually be pregnant and carry a pregnancy.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I have not had a miscarriage, but I had bleeding with both of my pregnancies, which I only thought could happen if you had a miscarriage. So even after the first time I had problems and then it was fine, when it happened my second pregnancy, I still thought that it was, because they're like, the minute that you call, it's like that's not normal.
Oh yeah.
So I've had the tiniest,
it's such a scary
feeling. It is terrifying, but yeah, the tiniest taste of that. But could you tell people about how you approached being fit after, during, what that looked like across? I know that you were literally pregnant for so many times and so long, I feel like. How did each one, because I feel like there's so many years of you like either being like pregnant or postpartum. So how did you approach that?
Yeah. I think for my first one, I was so young. I was 28. I was still 28 when I had my first baby. I was almost 29. Wow. Yeah. So I feel like it was, honestly, I don't know. People can say age is just a number, but honestly, F that. It's not true. It's not that you can't do incredible things as you age. And I still think at 41, if I really wanted to, I could run a marathon PR.
Yeah.
It's just that your body does change. And it's just like, it just changes. It doesn't mean you can't still do hard things. But yeah, I think that it was just like a little bit easier at 28 than 35. Right. And I just was dead set on running all the way through. And so I ran up until the day before I had Marshall. Wow. I had a scheduled C-section because he was breech. And so I ran the day before. I ran 3 miles. Wow. I really wanted to run the day of, but I would like, you can't drink or anything.
Right. You can't eat because you're having surgery. So you're, yeah.
But honestly, like I could have, now that I think about it, because I'm like, they gave you an IV the second you get in there. Yeah. Like you're getting fluids. I just wanted to do it to say I did, though.
I mean, the day before is pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah. And yeah. And then just every baby, I think I probably moved a little bit less as far as running and real exercise, but I always stayed super active throughout and took my time coming back, especially after my last 3, my first one.
I was like, wait a minute. After your first one, I feel like you got back after.
No, the first one, I waited my 6 weeks, and I had friends that were like running after 2 or 3 weeks. And for me, I was thinking, oh, this is good. I'm waiting my full 6 weeks. But once my 6 weeks was up, I was an unleashed feral animal.
Let me run again. Yeah.
I ran a marathon 4 months postpartum, and then another one 5 months postpartum, and then another one 9 months postpartum. I ran 3 marathons within a year.
No, you did not.
My first baby being born.
Lindsey.
Yes.
3? Like I just remember hearing you talk about at some point that I knew you did it pretty soon after, but I didn't realize you did 3 within a year. Wow. That's a lot.
I had him June 26th, and then I ran Monumental early November. And then I ran Rehoboth Beach Marathon, like mid-December.
Where's that?
And then it's in Delaware.
Interesting.
I think it's in Delaware. It's in one of those.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
They're all the same to me, all those states.
Somewhere over there.
No offense. Yeah, somewhere over there. One of those little ones. Yeah. And then I ran the Shamrock Marathon in March, and I ran a PR that. Wow. And that's when I realized how fast I could run. Like I have a lot more in me.
Yeah.
And I never got much faster than that because I kept having babies. But yeah, I ran 3:13. That was like 9 months postpartum. I ran 3:13 and I was like, okay, that's pretty fast.
And then you in 2017 is your fastest marathon overall, correct?
Yeah.
And that was 1 year after having Russell, who's your third.
Yeah.
3:11:52. That's crazy.
Yes.
So that's super speedy. Did you work with a coach during any of these?
No, I've never worked with a coach. Glenn served as that, like my husband, because he is not like a naturally fast runner, but he is willing to put himself through some pain.
Yeah.
And once he figured out how to train, he trained hard. Like he was running 90 miles a week. He got up to 100 at some point.
Yeah.
But at that point, when I ran my 311 in 2017, he had run 249 in 2015, I think 2016 maybe. And so like he had really taught himself how, like he had figured out the recipe to get faster. And so I relied on him a lot. That training cycle though, I just wrote my schedule week to week. I was like, okay, so I probably need to do like this. I probably need to do a long run here. I probably need to do that. I think I only did 120 miler.
Oh, yeah.
And my mother-in-law had just passed away 3 months before. So like life was chaotic. We had 3 little kids, baby 2.5, 4. And yeah, so it's looking back, you're like, gosh, I probably had a lot more in me, but there was just a lot going on.
You did that in the midst of all the things, which is just insane.
I think part of the reason I was able to run it that fast, I think that my ability was actually like much faster than that. But also I was just tried to let all the pressure go. Like it doesn't matter how fast I run. Mm-hmm. Like you always say, like nobody cares.
Yes.
I knew I had a PR in me though. So I would have been pissed if I didn't squeak a little something out of it. But yeah, it was a crazy time of life. It's one of those things where like when things are hard, if you have something else to focus on, it like masks that a little bit.
The distraction
maybe
is
it was
good.
numbing, maybe it was numbing you out a little bit.
And even. Which marathon was that?
That was
Monumental. I can't remember if you said or not. They're all blurring together.
Which was fun because those are our streets. Like we knew those are our streets. We know exactly what's going on. People on the course. I do remember though, this is so funny because I just saw him the other day in Raleigh. My friend Scott Breeden was pacing the 3:10 pace group. And it's so random because he was our friend from running from years ago. I saw him in Raleigh.
I saw that actually.
He doesn't
and I
live
thought
here.
that was mind blowing. Like, how does that happen? And how did you even associate, like, how are you here? Like out of context, when you see people, you're like, where am I?
I didn't. I was like picking up one of my son's soccer buddies because I was the carpool mom that day. And I was like, why is that dad running like in the middle of the road? Because he was like in the middle of the road. And I was like, I can't pull out until he passes. And then I looked again. I was like, that dad looks really fit. Like he looks like he can run. And then he got closer. And I was like, that looks like Scott Breeden. And then I like turned my head. And as he passed my window, because he was very close to the car at that point, and he turned his head. And I still didn't know if it was him. And I go, Scott Breeden? I just like, said it quietly as he passed by.
Yeah.
And then he was like, Lindsey. And so it was him. But yeah, it was like super random. He's only here for a week doing some like board exam. Of all places to be, like you're in the neighborhood I live in, running down the street. Like it was so random. But anyway, back to the story. He was pacing the 3:10 pace group. And I think we had like 2 or 3 miles to go. And they come trotting past us. And I was like, no, my hopes and dreams of breaking 3:10 are going out the window. And I just could not will myself to stay with them. But it was probably a mile and a half to go, really. And I was like, you know what, though? If I just keep moving forward, one foot in front of the other and going as hard as I can at this point, I should still be well under 3:13, which was my PR at the time.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Can't be mad about it.
No, but still.
Can't be mad.
It's always hard when you look back and you're like, but could I have just squeezed out a tiny more? And you're like, no.
Could I have stayed with them?
Probably not.
But I think everybody listening has probably experienced when that pace group trots on by.
Yeah. And you're like, dang. Although it can be confusing sometimes when you start in different spots, like then the pace group.
Yeah. Was I ahead of you? Did I cross the start line?
Which is why it's important to line up in the right spot, frankly. Yeah. This episode is also brought to you by Preventative. Preventative offers clinically effective supplements that promote longevity, performance, and everyday health. I'm so lucky to be working with Preventative. I've been taking their products since January. What I loved the most was that their founder, David Block, well, he's local, so I've met him twice, but he said, here, try the product and let's not do anything until after you've tried it for 30 days. Give me your feedback, then we'll talk. And I really liked that approach, first of all, because I feel like there's a lot of shady brands out there in this space. And so I gave it a shot. I tried the Gut and Greens Superfood to replace my other greens brand that I'd been using. The taste is pretty darn good for a green, and I've noticed a difference in my energy. So the reasons you would take a green are 1, for micronutrients and antioxidants, 2, for gut health benefits, so like digestion, regularity, and then anti-aging benefits. So some of that is where the natural energy kicks in. And I've said this before that I feel like I don't crave coffee quite as much. So I still have coffee, but usually it's after my greens, and it's really had me feeling great. So I take a slew of other products in the Preventative product line, but the Gut and Greens Superfood is one that's really low-hanging fruit for you, especially if you're already using a different brand. You can upgrade your greens and spend less than you're probably spending now as well. And you can use code ALLY15, ALLY 15, at checkout. That is ALLY15 at Previnex.com, Previnex.com. And Preventative is also a sponsor of our upcoming event. Thank you so much to them for supporting this podcast. And so before that 2017 PR, you started your podcast when? 2016? Okay.
Yeah. So that was also going on. Like it was also like a new thing going on.
So what made you be like, I want to start a podcast?
I was listening to podcasts. I listened to Serial, and I loved that. Adnan.
That was my first one. Yeah, he's free now.
Same. Oh, he is?
I saw it the other day and I was like, oh my God.
Wait, so do you think he's...
I don't know. I was like thinking about it. I'm like, maybe I want to go back and listen again because I don't know. I feel like it was just such a good first podcast for everybody to listen to because you just couldn't get enough of it. It was so wild. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah. So I listened to that and then I was like, I wonder like what other podcasts are out here. So then I started listening to Happy Hour with Jamie Ivey, and that was like a Christian-based show, but I was like, she's just talking to friends, and I enjoy listening to it. And I was like, I could do that. I could talk to friends and record it. And so I was like, I'll talk to friends about running and motherhood and just like life, pop culture stuff, whatever. But I was like, I'll make it a kind of a running focus. And that's what I did. And my first episode was with Laura Anderson. I made it way more stressful than it needed to be because I do not know anything about audio stuff. And just like the thought of like, how do I get a microphone? Like everything stressed me out. I think my first 50 or 60 episodes, my microphone wasn't even plugged in.
Yeah.
And I thought it was. But I started pitching pros and they started saying yes. And then, and I wanted it to be a job. Like I really did. Because I was this like stay-at-home mom, but I wanted to have a job, but I also knew I wanted to be with my kids a lot. And so I always tell people don't start a podcast for the money, but I also was like, but I want to make money. Because I saw that like Jamie Ivey and all those people were like selling ads for their podcasts. And I was like, if I could just grow this a little bit, I could start selling ads because you're in this phase where like, I can't pay for babysitters if I'm like not making any money. I can't justify that. You feel so torn. Yeah. And so a lot of times I would record like in my closet while my kids were napping. I would go to the Y and I would work out. And then the people that ran the place, they were like, they knew me really well. And I was like, hey, can I sneak into the chapel and record a podcast? So I would record podcasts in the chapel at the YMCA while my kids were in the child
That's
care.
Amazing. Hustle.
And so, I'm just like, I was freaking hustling so hard. I could never hustle like that now.
Yeah.
I would never be willing
I was going to say you could. You just wouldn't want to. Yeah.
I would want to. More work-life balance.
Yes.
But it worked out, and it wasn't like it didn't. I have a really hard time when people who are successful say things like, "Oh yeah," and this just fell into my lap, and I'm like, stop, stop. So I worked really hard to get it to what it became, and now it's been just like steady for a really long time.
Yeah. One of my questions for you is, Who have you been like nervous to interview? Anybody? Like you've interviewed, you said you started asking pros to say yes. Remind me who the first pro to say yes was? Sarah Hall.
Sarah Hall.
That blows my, like, you're like, holy shit, Sarah Hall, who I interviewed last year and almost had a heart attack.
Oh yeah, you got to interview her at Monumental.
I blacked out. Were you nervous to interview her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really nervous because I didn't really know what I was doing yet. And her internet wasn't working and we had to reschedule.
Oh, yeah.
So she got on and I was like, this isn't going to work. Like, we're not getting any of this audio. And this was before the days of Riverside. So, because on Riverside, where you record and I record, is really cool because if someone's internet is out, it records locally. So even if you couldn't hear me and I was cutting out to you, Riverside would still be capturing the recording,
it's wild.
Which is really cool. So I remember being like super nervous because I was like, what if she ends up not being able to do it?
Right.
So yeah, she was one of my first big yeses. And then I was like dabbling in non-runners too at that point. Like I remember I had Jamie Ivey said yes.
I feel like I remember
she
listening to that because I know that name from you for sure.
She was just like one of my favorite podcasters.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask my favorite podcasters to come on. I say Sarah Hall was the first pro that I didn't know, but Molly Ludlow came on. She was truly the first pro. And she doesn't run pro anymore, but she's a nurse now. But she ran for Saucony and she was an 800-meter runner. She placed fourth at the Olympic trials twice.
Yeah.
In 2012 and 2016. Wow. So, yeah. And I had interviewed her right before the 2016 Olympic trials.
Wow.
She married someone I went to high school with, which is
That's so
super random.
Yeah.
So I knew her. She like came over to my house and we recorded in person.
That's cool.
Yeah. But then Molly, Sarah Hall, Emily Enfeld. And then once Sarah and Emily came on, it started trickling. Like Alicia Montano came on, Brenda Martinez. Get more big names because you can always
name drop.
Like, listen.
Be like, hey, I've already had.
The first time I interviewed Michael Johnson, you better believe I'm name dropping that every track person I have on my show.
Yes.
Like, not in the conversation, but to pitch them.
Absolutely. You totally name dropped that in the conversation with Kenny that I just listened to.
For sure.
Because he's like the fastest human being on the planet.
So I work with a PR person to book Kenny. And so she might have said, hey, this woman has interviewed Michael Johnson, Sonia Richards-Ross, and named some like track legends. And he might have been like, okay. So yeah.
For anybody who doesn't know that name, go watch Sprints on Netflix. Season 2 in particular for him.
Oh, Kenny Bednarik.
Yeah. I feel like
he placed second in the 200 in the Olympics this year.
A beast. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I feel like over the course of time, over these 9 years, you've interviewed like everybody there is almost to interview. Who are some of the people that you have not interviewed that you're like dying still to interview that just for some reason you haven't?
I've been pitching Allison Felix since the day I launched my show 9 years ago.
Yeah, come
on, Allison. I've emailed as recently as 3 weeks ago, and they were like, no. Basically, they were like, she doesn't have time right now.
You're like, okay, how about next? Yeah, I'm just kidding.
I think multiple times a year for 9 years, I have tried to get her on my show. And I thought I might be able to get her on because I'm connected with Every Mother Counts, and she does a lot of work with like maternal health care and like athletes and motherhood. And I've had Christy Turlington Burns on my show, who's the founder of Every Mother Counts, and Alicia Montano, who's an advocate for mothers and mother runners. But yeah, it's just her. I'd love to have Gabby Thomas on.
Oh yeah, that's another one.
Ellie St. Pierre. I've never been able to get her on. There's a few people that I don't know why I've just not been able to book them that I've tried. Corey McGee, I've tried a lot.
And Cole, what about Cole?
Yeah,
have you gotten Cole yet? Cole Hawker?
No, I haven't gotten Cole Hawker. The PR person I'm working with who helped me book Kenny Bednarik and also has me interviewing Grant Fisher.
Cool.
Yeah. She works with Cole and Gabby Thomas. I reached out to interview Gabby and I basically she's booked out 6 months, but I have these people. And I was like,
cool.
Awesome.
Sign me up for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I got Kenny and Grant, but I have not heard back about Cole just yet. I'm sure it'll happen eventually just because of the Indy connection, but yeah.
And what about like crazy stories of, I know there's been at least one time, I think, with Des Linden that you recorded an interview and like for some reason the technology didn't work. Like those are my worst nightmares. And so like how many times has that happened to you over the course of 9 years?
Not very many, probably like 4.
Still.
That happened to Des and Emily Infeld. And Emily was like, yep, I'll do it. Des was tough because that was after her Boston win.
Yeah.
And I had begged her agent, Josh Cox. I love you, Josh Cox, because you have helped me get so many interviews over the years. But I basically was like, please, I'm so embarrassed. And he always puts the ask to the athletes and is such a good advocate and helps with the media and everything. He's really great to work with. But she said yes, so she re-recorded with me. But it was an unfortunate timing because it was like
right when she
was on the Today Show. Yeah. She met Taylor Swift, and I had interviewed her before, but I was like, I got to get this post-Boston interview. So that was like, after she won. I get nervous for that to happen when I'm interviewing a big name that was really hard to book. I remember Sonia Richards-Ross, like something was messed up with her internet or something, and I was like, shoot, because when am I going to get the opportunity to like re-record this? Yeah, those kinds of things for sure. Yeah.
So I loved how recently you shared like random fun facts really from your whole running journey, because there is so much there. You've been doing it for a long time. I remember seeing you in New York in 2019, and that was incredible. But then I saw that you've done New York twice. So which years have you done the New York City Marathon?
I did it in 2019 and 2022.
Okay.
That was the last marathon.
Okay. It was in 22. Okay.
Yeah. I guess it was 2.5 years ago. That was my
last gosh,
marathon.
Lindsey.
Gotta get
one. Come to Marine Corps this year. That's what I'm trying to do. It's 50th anniversary. So I'm.
I have always wanted to run that marathon.
I've done it once a while ago. I don't.
What do you have to? Is there a lottery or do you have a charity bib? How does that work?
It goes live. Registration goes live at I think 10 a.m. Eastern on April 7th. And I think that they will probably immediately sell out, if I had to guess, because of just all the buzz around marathoning that there is right now, and how it's one of the largest ones that doesn't have a lottery.
And I've just heard it's like cool.
So cool.
Just seeing all the servicemen and women.
It's amazing. You run by all the monument. It's just really cool. Anyway, but New York in 2019, I loved because I got to go to your event that you had either that year or did you do an event the year before? Or did you do the event the year you ran?
I did events both years.
Okay.
In 2018, that was really my first live show outside of the homemade scrappy one I put together on my own in Indianapolis.
So that's the one I went to. Yes, because it was the year I ran.
Yeah, I interviewed Paula.
You did.
Radcliffe,
it was so amazing.
Which was such a cool opportunity. I had Christine Burke, who was the president or the vice president of the New York Roadrunners, on my podcast. And so I had formed a relationship with her, and I just said, hey, I'd love to do a live show in New York. And so they invited me to do that. And they were like, yeah, we'll have Paula Radcliffe. And I was like, oh, the world record holder in the marathon? Oh, okay, cool. So that was like a really big deal to me at that time. They did not pay me for that. I paid for my own way. Yeah. I stayed with my friend Ashley. And then I realized I need to get paid for stuff like this. Needs to be part of my job. I can't just take a vacation. Yeah. But the cool thing about that was my Sandy was only like 3 months old, and I was in like the throes of like postpartum everything.
I think I remember Glenn like holding Sandy, like walking around, because it was in. It wasn't a running store. It was New York Roadrunners, but they had set up set up a pop-up shop there too. So it felt like a store. Yeah.
That was really one of the first times where I experienced people being like, hey, I listened to your podcast. Like random people. And
like me.
That felt really cool. Like that. Yeah. But I knew you.
But I remember being like, oh my gosh.
I don't know. It felt special. Like I was like, oh, because you put out this podcast and we've talked about this. Like you see the numbers, but you don't really know. You don't really picture them as like human beings. That's okay. All over the country.
Yeah.
And so
like real
that was
people.
A cool experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 2019, I interviewed Kellen Taylor, Sarah Hall, and Roberta Groner at the weekend of that race.
And
then
then
I went to the Every Mother Counts office and interviewed Christy Turlington
Wow.
Burns. And then I ran the marathon. Yeah. So it was a cool
Yeah,
weekend.
that is really cool. And that was the weather that year was pretty good, I think, because I spectated.
Yeah, I think it was a little hot at the end, but it was like fine.
Yeah. So I also loved the 2010, this random race that you ran that you said had like hundreds of people. Do you remember which one?
Oh, yes. The Piney Point Marathon.
No, there's a different one. The Lower Potomac River Marathon as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
the same name. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why I call it Piney Point. I think that's the city.
Okay.
Lower Potomac River Marathon. Yeah, that was a PR at the
That's
time.
So cool.
We were like just looking for, it was just the time of year we were looking for a race. And then we were like, my sister lived in DC at the time. So we were like, oh, we can go visit her. And so I think that we visited her in that. Anyway, and also again had no money. So we drove and like literally drove home same day. Both ran a marathon, finished the marathon and drove home because we can't pay for another hotel night or miss work the next day.
Wow. Oh, to be young.
Drove home 12 hours.
That's insane.
And I know. Can you imagine even considering that now? I would get on an airplane and fly home an hour.
That's
I'm not going to get in the car for 12 hours.
12 hours. Did he drive or did you drive or did you switch?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Drove.
Oh, my gosh.
No, he drove.
Yeah.
He does. I don't drive. I'm a passenger.
Yeah.
Princess.
Lucky.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd rather drive because being the passenger princess with kids means that you're the slave to all the kids and you're just reaching backwards constantly. Yeah.
Totally. You're the waitress. Yep. I don't drive ever when we do road trips. Like ever. Not for one segment. But yeah, that race was tiny. It was like 150 people and I got third place.
That's so great. Is that the only time you've been on the podium? Or have you done that before?
Yes. I've placed in like little 5Ks,
which is still amazing. Most people who listen to this probably, and me, like I'm like, I've never been on the podium for anything.
I think that probably one of my fastest, best races, I think I got second place, was the Firecracker 6.
Yeah.
It was the summer of 2013. I had just run the 313 marathon and I was training for a half Ironman. I was like, I'll just jump into this Firecracker 6 and see how fast I can run. Because I was still doing like fast stuff. And I think my pace was like 6:25 for 6 miles. And I got second place.
Wow.
I'm still sad I didn't break the tape because that would have been a first and last.
Right. You're like, the one time I can break the tape. Yeah.
I maybe could have.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably my fastest like race I've ever really done.
And so for the marathon one, you won $100 too. So, and you didn't want to splurge on a hotel.
No. I won $100 and I had run without a watch and I ran with some random guy pretty much the whole race. He was like a marathon maniac guy.
Oh yeah.
Because I was like, you're spending your whole marathon with me, but he just like, didn't care. He was just ran a lot of marathons.
That's so funny.
And I think I ran 3:24 and I was like, oh, okay. I think next time I could break 3:20 maybe. So it was like a spiral effect. Like you start seeing what you're capable of.
Yeah. It sounds like you've done at least a handful of states. Would you ever try to do all of them or no?
No, probably not. Just because I don't think that's how I want to spend my time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we've done California, Green Bay, Wisconsin, St. Louis, Missouri, Piney Point, so that's Maryland. I've done Rehoboth Beach.
And who knows where that is? And
who knows what little state that is? Virginia Beach, because I did Shamrock. Indiana, of course, multiple times. Boston, Massachusetts, Chicago, Illinois.
You could
New York.
You just got to get get paid to go to all of them.
But I'm usually emceeing, so I can't race them.
Okay.
If I did a live show the day before, and then I could
do events and then jump in the race.
And then jump in the race. Yeah, that is how I got to do New York for the first time. I did pay for my entry, but they did give me a bid because I was like working and doing the live show, and I just asked.
As you should have.
I did pay. Yeah, I did pay the $300 though.
Get mad.
Don't get it twisted. Don't get mad. But then the second time I ran New York, I raised money for everyone.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
I was a charity bib.
Yeah. I did it as a
Yeah.
charity and I didn't fundraise. I just wrote a check.
Yeah.
Because we give every year. And so like, I was like, hey, honey, like, how about for this year, like part of our allocation, this can be what we give. And so it worked out. But
yeah, it's always a good option. I bet there are lots of people that just donate the money instead of even raising the money. Because it's a lot of work. It is so much,
like $5 at a time. It's a lot. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially for people who do Boston on a charity bib. That is some hustle to raise those kinds of funds.
I think our minimum was $3,500 and Glenn raised. So I committed to raising for both of us because I was like, I want you to do it too. Yeah. And I set myself a goal of $10,000 because we had to do 7,000. I was like, well, let's just get up to 10. But I will tell you, I did the fundraising, but man, his like 2 posts on LinkedIn pulled in some dollars because he had work people given 200 here, 200 there. And so we got big chunks from the LinkedIn posts.
Yeah. That's amazing. Okay. So let's talk about what we alluded to earlier on, which is the history of breast cancer in your family and what that journey was like, the measures that you took to be preventative, all the things. I think this audience could certainly benefit from hearing your story.
Yeah. And it's always like a weird thing to talk about because I feel like health anxieties is like a long lasting thing in my life that I'm like constantly working on, and having preventative surgeries, it has eased my mind, but it hasn't taken away the lifelong battle I have with this. Like that seems to be more intense than most people. In 2012, I found out I had the BRCA2 gene mutation, which gives you like an 85% chance of having breast cancer in your lifetime. And I was already like really scared about breast cancer. And I had just finished nursing my first baby and I was freaking out the whole time because when you're nursing, you get like clogged milk ducts and like all the things. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have breast cancer. So I would like obsessively give myself breast exams and always freaking out about everything. Yeah. Like I had even a year before thought I felt something, but my doctor was like, I don't feel anything. But then she let me go get an ultrasound anyway because I was so nervous and it didn't look like anything. It's good though. I had that peace of mind, but I just decided, even though I wasn't done having kids, I was like, I am so anxious about this. If I can have this preventative surgery to have the double mastectomy, I think it'll give me such a peace of mind. And so I elected to do that in October of 2013. So my oldest son was like a little over 1 when I had my surgery. And the way I found out I had BRCA though was my grandma had breast cancer in her 40s. And then she was diagnosed stage 4 and overcame that. And then like 25 years later, she was like, I think a miracle. She was super Christian and went to this like weird healing camp and came home and couldn't walk. And my grandpa was like, he had said, you can go to this healing thing, but like when you come back, you have to go to the doctor. Yeah. And she went and she told me years later, like when she went to the doctor had called interns and people into the room and they were like, he was like, I have to show you. Oh no. This is what stage 4 looks like. And so she was healed from that. I was like 6 or 7 at the time. I was pretty young. She had my mom young. My mom had us young. So young family. What was her treatment? Did she go through chemo, lose her hair? Chemo. Yeah. Yeah. All that. Yeah. And she had a mastectomy only. They used to call them radical mastectomies because they cut all the way down to your abdomen. Ooh. And she only got one breast removed because it was the one that had the cancer. I'm like, I don't know why you wouldn't get both. And then she just lived her life with the one. Do you think this is where your like health anxiety comes from? The history of seeing her go through that? I don't know. I was so young. I was like 6. It certainly doesn't come from my mom because my mom is figure it out, take care of it, move on. Yeah. So then when she was in her 60s, shortly after I graduated college, she had ovarian cancer and she lived with that for like 8 years. Jeez. And she did finally pass away from that. She was only 72, but she lived like such a full life with ovarian cancer. man, if anybody did it well, it was her. So when she had ovarian cancer, that's when she got tested for the BRCA gene because it's related with BRCA. Your ovarian cancer risk is like 45%. This is for BRCA too. So it's not as high, but ovarian cancer is historically like a more deadly cancer than breast cancer, just usually because it's caught so late.
Yeah.
People aren't getting screened like you get screened for mammograms. You know? My mom found out she was positive, and I was like, oh man, now I got to get the test. My sisters both got the test. They were negative. They also weren't concerned about it at all. And so I, of course, the one who was concerned, of course, I'm positive. And so then I was really happy with that surgery. It just was life-changing for me to not obsess over that all the time.
Yeah.
And then I would get my ovaries ultrasounded every like 6 months, get my CA-125 checked. And
what is that?
The
CA-125?
It's like a blood test, and it detects, I believe it detects inflammation in like your pelvic area. So it's just like an extra measure they take if you are BRCA positive. Like you get your ultrasound, they look at your ovaries, make sure nothing looks fishy, and then they do the blood test as well, just as extra measure.
Gotcha. And is there, how many BRCA genes are there? Are there just two?
I think there's two, 1 and 2. Yeah. And one is, the risk is a little bit higher even.
Okay.
I think risk 1 is like 90% chance of breast cancer. Mine's 86 or something.
Yeah.
So then after we moved to Raleigh, I was still, when I would go home to Indiana, I would check my doctor's visits off because I was so obsessed with my doctor.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to leave her. That was like so emotional for me. And I had like a really low false positive high blood test. And they were like, it's just out of the normal range, but we're going to do a follow-up test in a few weeks. And I was like, nah. Because it probably, if it wasn't false positive, it was it could have been detecting you have a very like early cells.
Yeah.
And so she finally called me back, and the doctor a couple days later when she was back in the office, and she said, I was freaking out, and she said, I said, so you can't tell me I don't have cancer? She was like, I can't tell you that, but I don't think you do, but I can't tell you that. And she said, can you go get that blood test tomorrow? Can we just go instead of waiting 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And so I drove up from Bloomington to Indy and got the blood test, and it was back down to normal. I like obsessively called their office like 4 days in a row waiting. And finally the lady was like, okay, she's not back in the office, but I can tell you it's normal. And I was like, okay, that's all I need to know.
Please stop calling.
Yeah. But so the thing about that too is I had run 17 miles the day before I got my blood test. And so it's likely I had some like gut inflammation, something going on that like my body was responding to that stress or something.
Yeah.
And when I told the doctor that, she was like, oh yeah, that definitely could have raised it. Needless to say though, that was like, I was miserable for 2 weeks. I was just like anxious and freaking out. And I was like, I'm done. Like I'm done doing this.
Yeah.
And I was I just turned 39, and I told my doctor, I was like, I was planning to run the New York City Marathon this fall. I know that everything looks good now. If you were me, do you think it's fine to wait a little bit? And she was like, yeah, go run the marathon, go do it. And so in the meantime, I decided to find a doctor here and consult with them. And they were like, if you're done having kids and you're about to turn 40, I would do it. I would.
And now you're talking about a hysterectomy, correct?
Yeah. Sorry. And because there's multiple schools of thoughts there with the hysterectomy, because you're not, so really I needed to get an oophorectomy.
I've never heard of that.
Which was getting my ovaries removed. It's getting your ovaries removed, because my risk for uterine cancer or cervical cancer is just normal. It's like what anybody else's risk would be. But my risk for ovarian cancer is high. So I really only had to get the ovaries out, which is less intense surgery. It's laparoscopic. But I was like, the ovaries are what cause your hormones to change. Losing your ovaries, you're going into surgical menopause. So getting rid of the uterus doesn't put you into menopause. But I'm like, get it out. Like, I don't need it. If I don't need it, take it out.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to have that in my body anymore.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting a full hysterectomy and oophorectomy. So I got rid of, take the fallopian tubes out, all that. And so now I take 2 milligrams of estrogen every day, because the big thing beyond the menopause symptoms you feel like externally, like hot flashes and a little bit of tiredness and weight gain, things like that, you lose your bone density and your heart isn't as protected. So I take this supplemental estrogen to protect my bones and my heart.
Gotcha.
And not experience those outward symptoms as well. It's been really good though. Like, I was really scared and just like sad about it, way more than the mastectomy. I was scared for the mastectomy surgery, but I was really scared about this because I felt like it was like, oh, that you're really changing.
Right.
Now.
It feels
like
a lot more intense. Not that a mastectomy isn't, but it's like inside with all your other stuff and the emotions all tied to that. Yeah.
Yeah. This is it. You're done. There's no more like, what if I'm pregnant days?
Yeah.
You know? There's no more any of that. And it just felt really final.
Yeah.
But I don't feel any different, honestly. I really don't. I do get sad sometimes. Like, if I see a family of 5, I'm like, what if that could have been us? What if we could have had 5?
I can't even imagine. Yeah.
I know, but like, it's just seeing
I understand.
That and I would have had a 5th kid. My health anxieties really kept me from that, though. I was like, I can't do this. I can't emotionally handle postpartum again. Yeah. So yeah, that's like the story in a nutshell, with me taking all of my female parts out of my body.
And what did you do for your boobs? Did you get like reconstructive surgery?
Yeah.
Okay. And like implants,
so
or how does that work?
Yeah. Yeah. I have implants. I had everything removed, and then I kept my nipples though. And then I had, because you can choose to do that even if you have breast cancer, depending on where it is, you can choose to do that. Some people it's too close, or maybe it's too aggressive and the doctors recommend not doing that.
Yeah.
Because some people just have a lumpectomy. So I chose to keep my nipples. And that was a big talking point with me and my mom. My mom convinced me to, because she had gone through it.
Yeah. I can't, because then it's like, then do they replace, can they build nipples for you?
Yeah, they can put tattoos on and kind of like twist the skin and do something.
Interesting.
They can do it.
It's just not the same.
Yeah, they can do.
Obviously.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
Or you could choose to just have your implants and just have it just your skin without that. And that is like an extra layer of concern though. Like, over the years I've been like, oh gosh, I did this, and now what if I get cancer like right there? Because leaving them behind you leave a little bit of tissue behind. Yeah. So yeah, I had expanders for 3 months, and then they did the exchange surgery, and that was like that you go in and you go into the plastic surgeon and they like fill you up to expand your expanders. I heard you talk
about that. That's so interesting.
Yeah. And then they exchange them out. And now, it's been great. If I could go back, I would have gone bigger, but I was like 15 pounds lighter than I am now because I was just a young whippersnapper.
Yeah.
This is my settled adult weight, I think. This is where my body probably is meant to be. But at the time, I was so tiny. Anything felt like a lot compared to what I had.
Yeah. Yeah. That's hard.
Yeah. I'd go if I could get them swapped out, but I'm not going to put myself through surgery just for that.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'll have to get them swapped out anyway. So I'll go up a little bit when I do that in 5 years.
Yeah. I know. I don't know if you know this, but I have implants, and
you do?
I did it because not cancer related, but because I wanted to after having kids. Just wanted to make them not look like they were,
because they suck the life out.
Yeah, and I didn't even
get the life sucked out of them.
I didn't even breastfeed either, but I just had anyway. Like we could.
Yeah, but if you pumped,
yes, I pumped, and it was just. I was like, I really would like to like them again. That would be nice.
To not be deflated.
Yeah, so I did that, and then
good for you.
Because I wanted to, and my best friend did as well. I call her my breast friend now to be funny.
Listen, any woman that has had babies that doesn't look like they had babies in those boobs has had it done.
Right. And when I was like open to talking about it, I found a ton of other people that I had no idea.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, many. Oh yeah, I didn't know it was so normal. And I just hate that there's a stigma, because it's if you don't If you are able to change it and you want to change it, you can.
Yeah.
Whatever.
For sure.
Anyway, but my health anxiety, I can relate to you. I'm a hypochondriac. If I have a headache, I'm like, great, I have a brain tumor.
That's why I don't understand how you interview all these people with all these scary sicknesses. I have stayed away from that over the years. I don't do well talking about it. And so I really stay away from those stories sometimes just because it's selfishly not good for my brain.
Yeah. I just feel like that. I don't know why it doesn't bother me so much. I think part of it's the educational stuff. Like if I can learn and have more information about what to look for and how things happen, like maybe that's helpful to me. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'll always have that kind of anxiety.
Sometimes like less is more though. I think that's why I don't, sometimes I don't like, especially with the BRCA stuff, how I haven't made it like, I talk about it, but I don't like, some people like it's all over all their stuff and like they talk about it all the time. Yeah. And I do talk about it, but I don't want that to be like a defining thing about me. Yeah. And I don't want to think about it all the time. And I think knowledge is power, but sometimes less can be more. Like sometimes it's okay to just like, not keep searching and investigating. I don't know. You want to be smart, but also I don't want to obsess. Is what I'm saying. I think I'm just so lucky. I love my doctor that I have here. And I just feel like that gives me such a peace of mind. Like I'd have my annual physicals and all the things that I'm supposed to do. And I trust them. And if anything's weird, then I go and they'll test me. And she's like the same where she's, if it makes you feel better, you can do this. And I sometimes will be like, okay, let's do that. And sometimes I'll be like, I'll just wait. If it comes back, then I'll do it. Yeah, totally. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, well, thank you for sharing all of that. I feel like sadly, a lot of women can relate and probably even men listening too, who have a partner or a spouse that's gone through a scare or who has gone through cancer. It's interesting too, to talk about to your kids. Because like when I had my surgery, like they were all old enough to know, like the first time it was like, I just had one kid that was like 1.5. Yeah. The second time, like when I had my hysterectomy, I guess it was almost 2 years ago now. They're all, my big ones especially, like, mom, why is mom in the hospital? Like, why is mom having surgery? So, yeah. And they'll all have to get tested for it. Yeah. Eventually. Yeah. Yeah. I know with my surgery, it was not a crazy recovery, but I can't pick you up for a little while, the deal. And it was, thankfully they were young enough to where it wasn't like they were 16. Because that's another thing, especially being a mom of girls in particular. It's like you don't want them to have this unhealthy relationship with their body and think that they have to go pay and fix it. And it's like that they need to do that. You don't have to do that. But if you're able to and you want to, okay. So at least I feel like I can come from a place of positivity if they ever ask. Totally. You know how to explain that. I remember when I was in college and my mom got breast implants. This was before she knew she had BRCA, and she was like 38 or 39. Yeah. She was so young because they had us so young. And we were like at the beach and I looked at her and I was like, did you get a new bra? And she was like, no. And I was like, did you get fake boobs? And she was like, yes. So then she found out she had BRCA like 10 years later and had to like, it actually made her surgery. She didn't have to do expanders though, because she already was stretched from having implants, that she just swapped out, got all the tissue removed, took those implants out, swapped the new ones in. That's wild. But yeah, even my mom did that 25 years ago. Wild. Before we move on, I do want to talk about your work with the Donna Foundation too, because all this experience and the work that you do with the Donna Foundation are they based in Florida? Or is that just where Jacksonville? Yeah. So tell us about the Donna Foundation and the work that you do there and what that means to you after having this experience. Yeah. So the Donna Foundation is an organization that helps people who are walking through a breast cancer diagnosis. They have a care line, so they help people who are like in crisis and don't know what to do. And then they also help with financial assistance for medical bills, transportation, things like that. It's a really special community. The founder is a 3-time breast cancer survivor. And she's now actually the mayor of Jacksonville. She's the first female mayor of Jacksonville, which is the largest city in Florida. Yeah, she's so badass and just such a genuine, really special human being. Their motto is love over fear, love over fear. I was reached out to a third party who was doing marketing for them to come to their race back in 2018. And I was like, yeah, you might not even know this about me, but I am very high risk for breast cancer. I had a prophylactic mastectomy, and it really was a good fit. And now I've been going there every year since 2018. I've raised money for them, but mostly I'm an advocate for the race that they have every year, which is the Donna Marathon in February, which is an amazing race experience. The coolest course. You got to come run it with
I
me
want to so
sometime.
bad.
It's so cool.
Is it the first weekend in February usually?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's yeah. And you stay in Jacksonville Beach, and it's I don't know. I feel at home there because I've been so many times and I just know the area so well now. But yeah, so I love that I can advocate for them and spread awareness about what they're doing and be a part of that race every year. Yeah.
That's so amazing. I always love watching all the content that comes out of that weekend. It does look really special.
So fun. Yeah, just come stay with me as long as my family doesn't come because I go by myself.
Yeah, that's fun. That's even better. So someday, okay, I will come. And then you'll come to Vegas. We'll swap. 1 year I'll do Donna Foundation race.
Make it happen.
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, got it.
All right, so we're going to do something special for episode 100, and we are going to play Never Have I Ever Runner Edition.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes. Do you want to go first?
Yes, I'm going. Ready?
Okay. Yep.
Never have I ever been on the cover of a running magazine.
I have been on the cover of a running magazine in 2014.
I remember when that came out, and I was just like, oh my God, you're on the cover of women's running.
Yeah. That's what's funny about that is my cover art for my podcast is from that photo shoot. So if y'all think, why does she look like a baby child in her artwork? It's because I guess I was 30.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 30. I was pregnant with Lewis though. I was like 14 weeks.
Oh, dang.
15 weeks pregnant. Yeah, I was pregnant.
I did not know that.
I know. I remember telling them, I was like, I'm pregnant. Is that going to be okay? It was kind of annoying though, because I was pregnant and I was like not really showing, but like in that stage where you feel just like,
Yeah.
So I'm like, it'd be better if I was like 6 months pregnant and I could feel like, cute with my bump.
Yeah.
Or,
Totally.
So yeah. Okay. Yeah. Never have I ever DNF'd a race.
Okay. So I technically haven't, but it was the Philadelphia Marathon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what year I did that. I can't remember. I'd have to look at my spreadsheet. But I was like super sick. I did Chicago that year. And so Chicago's October, Philadelphia's November. And they used to have the half marathon and the marathon happening at the same time. Now it's 2 different days, I believe. So I like got up, got ready, went to the start line with all my girls, my friends that I was with. And I was like, I felt awful. And I was like, well, I'll just push through it. And they like have it where kind of like the Carmel Marathon where you can choose to, you're stopping, going one way to stop, going the other way to do 26.2. Like, I just remember I was so sick that I got so cold that I picked up a dirty shirt from the side of the road and put it on.
Oh,
I was like so miserable. It was awful. And so, yeah. And the chicken broth at the finish line, like saved my life. I'm pretty sure.
Wait,
But
so you finished the race?
I finished the half. I did the half.
Oh, the half.
Not the full.
Okay.
So I like technically like I DNF'd my full marathon,
but like you knew at the start line you were going to do the half.
Well, once I realized how easy it was going to be to make that decision, I was like, that's probably the decision I'm going to make.
Finishing this.
Because if I would have been forced to run the whole thing, I mean, I probably could have, but I would just probably would have been even more sick. And it was like right before Thanksgiving. I remember I met my niece for the first time and couldn't hold her because I was like so sick. Anyway, so yeah. So technically you can count that as a DNF or like, just a pivot, but I got a medal.
I feel like you can call it a pivot. You can call it, I stepped down to the half.
Yeah. Yeah. And I still like, it sucks that happened. I remember beating myself up, and, but what can you do? I was so sick.
You're sick. You're sick.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Never have I ever used a porta potty during a race.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah. Swear.
How?
I don't know, Lindsey.
Oh,
but
my gosh.
I have done so many races and I have never used a porta potty.
Wow, that's crazy to me.
During a race, like I've used a porta potty plenty of times.
Yeah,
but like
I've used lots during races for sure. Because I'm like, if I'm like uncomfortable, even if it's just a pee, I'm like, I'm just gonna do this really quick.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I've ever done it during like a PR race. And I don't think I have during like a PR race, but like races, like if I'm running a marathon and I'm not like trying to PR, I will for sure stop and use the bathroom if I need to.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Never have I ever raced in super shoes.
Really?
Yeah.
Someone needs to give this girl some super shoes. Do you have a pair?
I mean, yes, I have 2 pair and they were gifted to me.
Right.
I have a pair of Solomon super shoes and I have a pair of Puma. I actually have the Puma super shoes that Dakota Lindworm ran in the Olympics in, but I don't run fast right now. And I'm like, I'm afraid it'll like mess with my feet and like my Achilles and stuff if I'm not using them for the right reason. So
Right.
I'm holding on to them and if I decide to run a race, I'll wear them. But like, yeah, I've actually only ran around the block in a pair one time. That's the only time I've ever worn them.
Yeah. So I've gone through 2 pairs and I've only run in one kind, which is the Saucony Pro Elite. Is that what it's called? The 3s.
Mm-hmm.
I've done the 2s and the 3s and I only use them for races. And then recently got the advice that you should run in them more than just races, just to make sure,
I would say, yeah.
And I was kind of like, oh.
To do like a couple tempo runs.
Right.
Or like a speed set. Yeah.
Just to make sure. Like I run, I don't know, I guess I run in a few different brands of shoes, but mostly Saucony now. So I feel like, anyway, and you've seen mine. I've bedazzled the hell out of them. So they're like beautiful. I don't want to like ruin them. So
no.
Anyway, but
I know. Well, and you don't want to run too many miles in them because they're expensive and you don't want to have to buy more.
Yeah.
I think I would for sure do at least one of my long runs in them though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I got them when I worked at the running store. Well, the first pair, I should say. And that was really helpful because it was not as expensive.
Yeah. Get that 40%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Never have I ever puked after a run.
I have done that.
Marathon or track meets or both?
Half marathon.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember it was after the Bloomington half. I think I had 2 kids. And at the time, I didn't feel like I was running very fast. But now looking back, I think I ran like 135 or something, maybe 136.
Oh.
And Bloomington is like
hilly.
So hilly.
Yeah.
So like I really like full sent that thing. Like I don't know what kind of shape I was really in, but like I crossed that finish line.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've definitely done that before. And I've done that like when I was younger after like a hard workout.
Yeah. Yeah. I've only dry heaved, which is a recent thing actually.
Yeah. I mean, if you push yourself hard enough, your body's like, what
I know.
Are you doing?
And I remember the first time I dry heaved, I was like, holy shit. Like what in the hell is this feeling? Like I'm
working hard.
Yeah. And then I was like, well, that's fun. Yeah, I've definitely done that in front of Jed, our executive director, more than once now, because at the end of Monumental, I'm just like, give me a second.
Well, no, wait. At the end of Monumental, so many people threw up that year. I don't know what was in their gels. And it was like elite people. So like they were probably using their own gels.
Yeah.
But I've never seen so many people throw up at a finish line. That was weird. That was like a strange event.
Yeah. I don't know. Something in the water. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
it was just it was random.
Yeah.
Okay. Never have I ever.
I have a few more. You want me to go?
Okay. Yeah, you go.
Okay. Never have I ever paced a marathon.
Oh, I have paced a half marathon.
Okay. So have I. I've never paced a full marathon.
Yeah, I've never paced a full marathon. I've only paced one half marathon. I paced the Indy Women's half.
Okay.
And
that's the only one I've done.
had me pacing 140.
Oh, hot damn.
Damn is right. It was like, I was like, okay, we're going to be running 7. I think that's like 740s or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right because my PR is 143 and that's like a 750 pace. So it's yeah. That's cooking.
It was fast. It was fun though. I had a little group with me and then at the end I got to run, I think her name was Debbie. I got to run her in and I don't know if it was like a lifetime PR or like master's PR because I think she was probably in her 50s, early 50s maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, she had a really great race and we ran together our little group split up and it was just me and her at the end. And it was
cool.
Really cool to experience her crossing that finish line. And then I saw her like at the airport heading to Boston one year, like kind of kept in
Aw,
touch a little bit
that's
here
so
and there.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have
What did you pace?
I paced the Indy Women's, which is now the Indiana Women's Running Festival. And it's
Okay.
now over Labor Day. I was like, which weekend? Labor Day weekend. So it's August 30th this year. And so last year I did it. I paced. The year before I ran with my friend Christy D, and she was pacing for the first time. And so I kind of was like her shadow.
Yeah.
So I ran the race with her. And then, so the next year I was like, I feel like I could pace. Like that's something I could do. And so I did the 1:55, and that was great.
Yeah,
Like that was a
that's
perfect
good.
sweet spot.
Yeah.
I remember my running coach, Rachel, did the 1:50, and she was kind of like, oh, that's like a little,
Yeah.
quick for like the first time. You're just, I didn't want to mess it
You
up.
want it to be real healthy. Like you
Yeah.
want it to be like a real, yeah. I mean, at this point in my life, I feel like I would want to do like 2 hours.
Yeah. 2 hours is Trina Roudabush, like I swear, at every race. 2 or 4.
Clockwork. Yeah.
Like she just paces all the marathons and the half marathons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would feel really good. I mean, in some way, if you're like training still, you want to run it, you want to pace like not super far from like your,
Right.
but you can't be too close. But if it's too slow for like what you're used to running, then it doesn't feel natural.
Right.
So like for me right now, I feel like a 9-minute mile would feel really
good.
And,
yeah.
like, healthy. Yeah.
Yeah. Christy did the 2:10 the year I ran with her, and that felt
okay.
I mean, this is no offense to anybody who runs 2:10 half marathons. It doesn't matter. But for me, that felt slow. And it felt like I was doing a disservice to the group, because I kept wanting to go faster. And so that was why I feel like, 1:55 was great. I still got really excited, but I like just had to rein it in. And I ran with like the entire IU women's, which team? The rowing team. They all came.
Oh,
and
fun.
So they were in my group, and it was so fun. I really enjoyed that.
So
fun. And my friend Becky, who I run with me too, which was nice, kind of like I did with Christy. So that was helpful as well.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
My husband Glenn used to pace the 3:10 group at Carmel. Can you imagine? I'm like, that is so fast.
That's like Kelby Loeffner, who I just interviewed. She used to pace 3:15. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Like, Yeah, it's crazy.
Being comfortable at that pace is wild to me.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah. Okay. Did you think of another one?
Yeah. Never have I ever used a Morton gel.
Oh, really? That's shocking to me. Mm-hmm. They're gross, kind of.
Have you used them?
Okay, so I have, because I had to see what all the fuss was about, because I still haven't run Boston. Yeah. But I was like, okay, my coach uses them. Like, I'll buy some on the feed and give it a shot. And the ones without caffeine, the way I describe it is it kind of tastes like marshmallow almost. But like the consistency of it is fine. It's like almost like not chunky, but it's like just jelly. Like it's more like a jelly consistency than the goo, if that makes sense. Like it like chunks apart, which is great. I feel like you can kind of get it down like a Jell-O shot, which is fine. It's fine. Not my favorite thing. But the caffeine ones, I can't. They taste really gross to me. I don't know what it is, but it has like this chemically flavor to me. Yeah. So I was just like, well, for the price, if I don't love them, like I'm going to stick with my maple syrup. Thank you very much.
Heck yeah. Anderson.
Yay.
Pure Fuel. Shout out.
Shout out.
Are you trying to qualify for Boston?
Yeah, not this year. I've decided this year's more of like a running for fun kind of a year, but I'm almost 40. And so part of me, with them just making it harder and harder, feels like I just have to be 40 before I'm really going to put in the work, because I'm just kind of on the edge. I think I shouldn't say I think. I know that I can.
You can.
But it's just like, okay, can I just give myself a little grace and go after it when I have a little bit more?
Right.
It's just going to get harder, though, is the other problem. So I don't know. I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, eventually we all slow down. I mean, I don't think that you're anywhere near that, especially given like, I feel like you've gotten more serious about your running in the recent years. So it's not like you have like 20 years of like pounding really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, you've run for a lot of years, but like to me, it seems like you've gotten more serious recently.
I have. I just started using a coach. I started working with Rachel maybe 3 or 4 years ago now. It's been, a long time, but then I finally learned how to train the right way. And that made all the difference for me. Part of it was coming back after babies. And then the next phase of that was then, okay, now I'm going to go for the speed again. And so last year I PR'd my full marathon. The year before that, when you were at the finish line at Monumental, I PR'd my half marathon. So that's why I was kind of like, okay, like I'm getting faster. And I told Rachel, I want to keep getting faster, but I also want to enjoy it and not put so much pressure on myself where I like burn out, because like running is clearly something I love and I don't want that to change. So
You don't want it to be ruined by obsessing and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Okay, I'm going to ask you now the end of the podcast questions. I feel like that was fun.
Oh, but yeah, that was fun. I thought of one more.
You did? Okay.
But I already know your answer. I was just going to say, never have I ever used a running coach.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, and then you are a coach, which is, I can't believe that. Yeah, that's wild.
It's because I don't like people to tell me what to do.
I do. And I like the accountability, even though I don't really need it. Like, I just like that somebody else is looking at it. It helps.
Yeah, no, I think that's why most people do. I just I don't want to be, this is why I work for myself. I don't want
so I can do what I want.
To tell me what my schedule needs to be.
Right. That's fair enough. Yeah. I feel like a good coach will work with you too, though. Like if you're like, hey,
for sure.
But I get it. That's fair. That's fine. Plus you've gone through all the necessary training to be a coach. So at least you know what to do.
I know what I would need to do for sure.
Yeah. For sure. Okay. End of the podcast questions are,
okay,
what is your favorite running song and or mantra?
Okay. My favorite running song. I'm going to look at my Spotify. Let me give you two answers.
Okay.
I really like Memories, David Guetta, Kid Cudi.
Yeah.
Do you know what song I'm talking about?
I'm trying to hear it. Oh, I love the beat of that one. That's on my marathon playlist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one. And then my next one is this is called My First Song by Jay-Z.
Oh.
I'm going to play it.
I don't think I've ever heard that song.
I know. It's like a deep cut. It's this is so random. It's called My First Song. It's about like working as hard now as you worked when you first got started. Like when you were like hustling so hard to try to, launch your podcast or run a fast marathon or whatever. It's like still putting in that work now.
I like that.
That's what it's about.
Cool.
And I was listening to Sue Bird on NPR podcast with Terry Gross, and Terry Gross asked Sue Bird what was her hype song, and she said My First Song by Jay-Z. And so I was at the airport traveling to Bayshore to do an event there, which is the Bayshore Marathon, and I listened to that song the entire way to Traverse City, and I was like, I'm obsessed with this. And it kind of like gave me good energy to like prep for, I was interviewing Des Linden live at the Bayshore Marathon.
Yeah, no big deal.
And it gave me like energy to like bring as much research and prep for that interview as I used to do at the beginning. So that's the other one.
That's a really good one. I like that a lot.
Add it to your playlist.
Yeah, I will actually, because I have a playlist for this podcast as well. So when people give me their favorite running song, I add them to the playlist. And then when I listen to that playlist, which I've been trying not to listen to music as much, which is good, but when I do, I'll put that playlist on, and then I can think of the person whose song it was. Or if I don't remember, then I have to go look it up because it'll drive me nuts. But it's really fun.
I love that.
Yeah. And then in terms of mantras, when I listened to an episode of a podcast you were on, Glenn told you something that I really liked, which was don't think, just run. So that's a good one for people to tuck away. But what is your do you have a personal mantra or mantras you say to yourself?
What podcast was that?
That was on the Alley on the Run.
On Alley's? Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, that's funny because I don't remember that at all. I don't think I can go back and listen. I'd cringe, I think.
It's a while ago.
Hearing yourself.
I know. Yeah.
Hearing yourself in old interviews, I'm like, ugh. I think I just say go, go, go. Just like, just go. One thing I really like that actually Scott Fauble shared on my podcast a long time ago was he says like, be like water. And I always talk about this now. Like if I'm on stage at an expo, I bring this up to encourage the runners because it's one of the best things I've ever, in all my years interviewing pros, have ever heard someone say. Just like be smooth like water calms you down, and it also is just like a smooth, like think about like a creek. And so if you think about that while you're running, like I can just like be smooth like water, and I just try to tell just like relax,
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, just go. I'd say that's my like if I'm on the treadmill, I mean I haven't done speed work in a really long time, but if I'm on the treadmill like doing intervals or something, I will just like verbally like
yell
like,
at yourself.
Go, Lindsey. Like I just Yeah, I do.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, this reminds me to ask you briefly too about your 70 hard and your version of it, because I did a strength class or a boot
Oh,
camp
yeah.
yesterday or the day before, and I had to do burpees and I thought of you. So tell people your
Oh, yeah.
modified version of 75 hard.
Well, I've always been intrigued by it, and I'm like, but this is also the reason I've been nervous to do it is also one of the reasons why I've never done like any sort of like structured diet, because I just like I don't want to obsess over anything. I want to live my freaking life. But I also feel like there's something really cool about having a goal and like sticking to a commitment, which you're all doing if you're marathon training. There
Yeah,
you go. That's your commitment.
Yeah.
So the 75 hard though, for anybody listening, is like you have to work out twice a day for 45 minutes. One of those times has to be outside. No, doesn't matter the weather. You take a picture every day too for your progress. I'm also not doing that part. And then you have to stick to a certain diet and no alcohol. So I'm doing the 245 minutes. I'm committing to the 245-minute segments of working out. Very, very limited alcohol. I haven't said I'm going to give it up completely, and just trying to eat sensibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sticking to a diet.
Isn't there a water aspect?
Yeah,
aren't you supposed to drink like a gallon of water or something crazy too?
Oh, yeah. You're supposed to drink a ton of water, which I try to drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
But on top of that, which I guess it can be included in my second 45 minutes, is I'm also committed to doing 50 burpees a day, which isn't that hard to do, guys. It's really not. Like if you just break it up into sets of 10 throughout the day, and it keeps you awake. It like wakes you up, like if you're feeling like a little bit like slumping around at like 2, it's that time of day where you start feeling tired midday. Get up off your butt and do 10 burpees.
Oh man.
Okay?
I hate burpees so much.
But I had to do 30 last night at 9:30 p.m. and I ran out of time to do my second workout. So I just went on a walk at like 9:45 last night, like a mile and a half. So I didn't do 45 minutes. But that's my other thing, is like it doesn't have to be exact. It just has to be an effort. And so
I think that's fair.
That second effort was there.
Yeah. I like that.
It's a casual 75 hard.
Well, as you know, I'm doing no alcohol for Lent. So far it's been going really well, but
How's that going?
Fine. It's just fine. I just don't drink, and that's fine. And then when people ask me like, why aren't you drinking? I can just be like, because I gave it up for Lent, which is easier than being like, because I don't want to. And then people are like, why? And I'm like, because I'm old and I feel like shit if I have 2 drinks, so anyway.
I know.
Yeah.
So this will be Friday. This Friday will be 2 weeks since I had any alcohol.
So great.
I think Lent, it would be 2 weeks today, right?
Yeah.
Because it's Wednesday.
Yeah.
And Ash Wednesday is the start of Lent, right?
That's right. And so, I've been 2 weeks. That's pretty good. Look at us.
Because I had a drink that Friday, and then actually I went to church on Sunday, and he talked about why you give something up for Lent, and I really liked the way he talked about it, and I was like, ooh, I feel like I'm holding on to this a little tight. So I kind of giving it up. I think I don't know if I'm gonna go the full 40 days, but for instance, on Friday, one of my friends is having a birthday party, and I'm like, will I have a couple drinks?
Those situations are hard.
Maybe I'll bring like a really good mocktail and like have some caffeine to feel like a little jazzed up.
Yeah.
You know how you say like, oh, you don't want to have caffeine late because it'll affect your sleep? Well, guess what affects your freaking sleep?
Oh yeah. I know. Yeah. Alcohol for sure.
I'm like, I think some caffeine at 10 p.m. will probably affect my sleep less than like 3 drinks. So
yeah. Well, and now like we're so lucky here in Carmel. We have actually there's 3 locations now of a non-alcoholic liquor store. And so they have all the coolest brands of NA stuff. That's helped me a ton. And people are like, it's almost like cheating. I'm like, kinda, but it's not alcoholic. So
but you're not drinking the poison.
Yeah.
But also like one of the perks of not drinking is not spending the money. And so I feel like all these like craft mocktails, it's like, I bought some stuff from Three Spirits.
Yep.
And I really like it, but it was very expensive.
Yeah, it's like a bottle of booze expensive.
It was like I got 3 bottles that were not very big, and I think it was like $100.
Yeah. One
of them is like a nightcap though, and it has like valerian root in it and like all these like nice sleepy time things. Yeah. And so I think it feels like you're drinking like a whiskey, even though it doesn't totally tastes like whiskey. You put like a big ice cube in it
Right.
and have
You
it in a
just
glass.
fake it. It's,
Yeah,
you're tricking yourself into feeling like you're doing it, and then it becomes easier, I think. But I'm going to
But you're
Key
actually
West.
like drinking something that's relaxing. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to Key West with my husband during spring break for a night. And so that's going to be tricky because we're going to be on a ferry for like 3.5 hours.
I would give it up for that. You should give
might.
it up for that.
We'll see.
I'm not pressuring you to like not follow,
Jesus,
all your feelings towards Lent. But I feel like Jesus would be like, you should let loose on that day.
What would Jesus do? He would let loose in Key West. He would
drink wine.
Yeah. Okay. And now, second question. What is your next finish line or milestone?
My next finish line, I am race announcing at the Blue Ridge Marathon in Roanoke, Virginia. And so that is my next finish line I'll be at.
Oh, when is that?
It is in mid-April. It is like the week before Boston. And then I'm not going to Boston, but I'm also race announcing at Big Sur the following weekend.
Oh, cool.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. And then after the weekend after that, I'll be in Indy for the Mini. So it's
so
like
pumped.
three of 4 weekends in a row are spoken for.
Yeah. If only Glenn would listen to this so I could say, thank you, Glenn. Thanks for holding down the fort. Yeah. And thank you to my husband who does that. He's fine.
I actually convinced him. I know. I actually convinced him we're going to take the family to Big Sur.
Oh, that's cool. That's a good one. I feel like.
Yeah. So then I don't feel so like, I want to take them because it'll be fun, but I also I have a little bit of guilt relieved for being gone so much because they're going to come with. And it's such a beautiful place. Like I told my husband, I was like, when else are we going to take the kids to Big Sur? Like we're just not. So let's do it.
Yeah. That's cool. Oh, fun. Oh, this has been so fun. I have no idea how long we recorded because we've done it in a few separate recordings. So it's going to be like, who knows how long.
Like your longest episode.
Recorded. I have only one that's been over 2 hours, and that was recent actually. And it was an accident, and it was a great episode. It just was like, holy crap. How is it that long? I'm not Rich Roll. So, well, it's good for those long runs. So thank you to everybody who listened to this. Yep. Maybe during a run. I hope
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. And happy running. Yep. Happy 100 episodes. If you enjoyed this 100th episode of Finish Lines and Milestones from Sandy Boy Productions, please go share, rate, review. You can find me on social media at Allie, ALLYT, Brett, BRETT, Allie T Brett _runs. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks for listening. Here's to the next 100 episodes.